first of all, the idea, okay, I already said that it's at the moment perhaps so that the active city is a vision of an, how can I say, perfect city, the view, all kinds of things that can be done, but is it reachable? Perhaps not, but there are the things that we can do by having this vision, and it's process oriented, the way that our group at the moment saw the active cities. Okay, there is a process and various things that we want to do. I jump into this perspective here. We perhaps at this point still need first, when we go to city people and try to convince that active city concept is a good thing, we need to stress out these benefits of physical activity first. We have the evidence, we of course need a continuous research, but still we have the evidence. We have to lay out those evidence and get people aware of what benefits of physical activity for a city. Input versus output, that if you invest in physical activity, it gives you this and this kind of benefits. Thereafter, we need a framework of components. What are the main components of an active city? What is a structure to become an active city? What are the milestones, steps to get there? Because as we discussed at the end of our session, that from the global perspective, we have to keep in mind that different continents are at different level of development, different cities are at a different phase of development, and this way we need to keep these guidelines or standards or whatever we are calling toolbox milestones at general level, and so that we have a general level guideline, and then we have case examples for different kinds of cities in a different stage of development for them to see where we are now and what can we do to improve our city. The ultimate goal, of course, here is to increase the number of people who are being physically active. But the key question is how to get there. We need some changes, but where we need these changes and how we are going to do this. This is perhaps the key steps what we need to consider here. And this way we discussed a lot about this, that if a city is in our point of view the focus, there are of course people and their behaviors, but there are structures and organizational decision-making processes within a city that through which we need to maybe act more actively than today. We have many of different kinds of motivational get to move days and festivals and things like that. Those are valuable, of course, but we perhaps need changes within this environmental and organizational factors to get physical activity more sustainable in a city context. We discussed about the success. What is success in this active city concept? How it will be evaluated, on what level, city level or individual behaviors. And the conclusion is that we need evaluations and we need to measure success within both in people's behaviors, but also in a setting context. And maybe first, from this concept's point of view, changes in organizational environmental factors, and secondary on people's behaviors, but equally valid both level changes and success. And in this case we also need to consider to whom we are telling this success, the evidence. We need evidence for us to develop this concept, but we need also evidence for decision makers that this really is working now. And they are obviously more keen to physical activity level, behavioral change, and of course then economics, that it reduces the costs of healthcare, etc. Okay. So, as a final statement, it is a contextual question, and we need flexible tools, flexible guidelines for various cities around the world. And it is a very complex thing, and our final solution, definition of what is active city, we could not reach yet. We have to continue the process still. But here are many nice components and important issues that we can consider and have to consider when we are defining this active city in a future steps. But to be more practical, which I as an academic I am not, so Bia will give us a practical visionary picture of active city concept.
Excuse my very, very poor artistic skills, but I come from obviously a much less academic background in this theory, so and a visual person, so this is the basis sort of our concept of active city, or potentially. This is something we very briefly discussed at the end of the meeting. There's, as somebody was saying very nicely, there's both the indirect and direct measures that you need for an active city. So there's the events that are the sort of marketing side of the active city that get people out there, that get the word out about active city, that people, you know, for instance, International Challenge Day, but they aren't sustainable. So that's sort of one side of the active city tree. And the other side is the indirect measures, so the fundamental planning within a city, the economics behind being an active city, and the benefits and the health benefits and things. So you need both sides of the equation to really have a whole. And up the trunk of the tree is the level of development. So if you write down the base, we have developing countries up to developed countries, which is where most of us sit. And there's different levels of implementation that you need up that tree. So the tree is the process, the product is the sun at the top, or something at the top, bird, I don't know, something. That we need to climb the tree to get to the product. So it's all a process to get to an end result. And another way of looking at it, for those who are less pictorial, if you sort of take the triangle approach, although I'm not convinced a triangle is the best shape for this, but there's the direct measures, which are sort of the point of the triangle, the bit that people see, so perhaps it should be an iceberg and the other way around, I'm not sure. And then the indirect measures, which are the theoretical background and the behavioural changes that will be sustainable and ongoing, are the bulk of the triangle. And somehow this is the process and this is the result, and that level of development again comes into it, because Tefisa is a global player. We need to consider people from different continents, different backgrounds, different levels of education, different levels of funding and facilities. So it's the direct measures are often what can be implemented easily with lower budget or within a less time frame, whereas the indirect measures are really a process of change. So it's something that will eventually result in an ongoing active city rather than just the marketing campaign to kick the whole thing off. So there's sort of just some ideas of perhaps how we could approach it, present the active city concept, rather than just having a series of facts of why this is so good and pages and pages of text. Some people respond a little bit better to a concept. So that's a start anyway. Thank you. Any questions?
Well, just as a joke, how tall is the tree to reach the active city?
It gets taller each year.
Yeah.
So, interesting. So, how about other team members? Are you something to
Do you agree?
My question is, have you been in the same meeting, you see? So I think it's very crucial momentum, so we have to discuss about it. So please.
Maybe something else to add, because it didn't everything we discussed, because they did. Well. We had a discussion about the role of the visa, and sitting here in the back of the I was simply thinking about an inconvenient truth from Al Gore, and I thought maybe the visa needs an inconvenient truth, but then about active cities in the way that you, of the visa, you want to create the movement.
Yeah.
And you need a tool to get everybody thinking. And there are doing a lot of countries and cities who need tools. It all starts with the idea, with the vision about that an active city, active cities, is very important for the future. We're talking about a long-term thing, because from the figures of Wolfgang, in 2030, 65% of the people will live in cities, and 2050, 70%. So there's some urgency for the short term, but it's also a thing that you want to change for the long term if you talk about active cities and active citizens. So that's why I came to the idea, and to the idea of an inconvenient truth, getting into movement.
Good point. Some
Good point, which I assume Bea came up with while she was doing her
Scribbling.
drawing, would be the approach of having sort of spearhead products where how with which you raise awareness of activity and physically active way of life, and thus have them proceed into processes which are sustainable in the long run. So that would be the sort of the roadmap for the roots of the tree, how you can start climbing, having some clear products such as the challenge day, and then that would sort of take you to the path and have you climb up the tree, up the ladder of the tree, and to form it into a sustainable process that would become a normal way of society to function.
Well, actually, from my point, when there you have written here that this active city is a product, I think in the beginning it might be more or less, you see, process of participating cities, because actually you see these cities, they are experts in their own field. However, TAFISA is not.
Yes,
TAFISA
sorry,
is
that
the
was...
organization of cities or municipalities. So it means that when this procedure is created, the role of cities is really important. In terms of Finland, for example, we cooperate a lot of the communities, but our position is rather, you see, one way to support, you see, this communities cooperation, and we act there. So but we